This movie is being created to help 6th to 7th graders understand the concept of narrative voice. It is for 518. Hi, my name is Christine Wickham, and I am here to help explain the concept of narrative voice. Before we really get into how to create it and how authors create narrative voice, we need to understand what it is. So what is narrative voice? Narrative voice is pretty easy to understand once you get the basic concept down. Many people think it is only the voice of the character in the story. It's kind of an oversimplification because in actual point of fact, it is how the entire story is told. The word narrative indicates that you're telling a story. And many people, many students your age, particularly seem to think that that's only if it's written down. And, can't be bothered to read anything. But narrative voice is used in movies and in music, in history. It is used for television programs. Even the nightly news uses a type of narrative voice. And then, so that kind of narrative voice is how the author wants the story to be told. Then comes the other aspect of narrative voice. That aspect of narrative voice is how the character speaks. Is he or she excited? Is he scared? Does the character act confused? All of those are aspects of the character's narrative voice. So, how can narrative voice possibly be used in a movie? Might be one of the questions that's running through your mind right now. It's pretty easy when you look at a movie to realize that a story is being told. That's the whole point of a movie. How does the director and the producer and the scriptwriter and the actors, how do they bring all of that information together into a story that's interesting and fascinating and keeps your attention? That's narrative voice. They utilize music, scenery. Sometimes they even utilize the fame of the actors. Not always, because sometimes the actor is so famous, people are focused on him instead of the story. You don't want that to happen if your story is really great. You want people to talk about the story, not how good Brad Pitt was in it, or Orlando Bloom. Woohoo! Orlando Bloom! Look, he was sexy in that movie. What was the movie about? I don't know, but Orlando Bloom was in it. That is a problem that occurs with any kind of movie. You can have a great storyline, but if your actor overshadows it, then nobody knows what you were trying to talk about. So instead of simply utilizing the actor or actress, the directors and scriptwriters often bring in other aspects. You've got your scenery. That tells a story in itself. Think about it. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 2. Would it have been as impressive to simply hear the bridge blow up or seeing it blow up? Which of those really grabbed your attention? If you think about it, without the visual aspect, it becomes an oral history or movie or story of some kind. And that's not exactly what you're going for with the movie. So you've got your scenery, and then you've got your music. And the music, although it doesn't necessarily tell the story, it really adds to it. Take out the dramatic music when Harry and his friends are standing in the snow, and you've just got people standing in the snow. There's no indication that something extra might happen or has already happened. But that music really adds impact to it. And then you get into the entire music genre. They've got music videos now, but most people still listen to it on the radio on the way to work. And that, trust me, that's no way, no time to be watching a music video to get a concept of what they want you to know. Can you imagine that? Everybody crashing into everybody else? So, what they do, they use tempo and tone of the musical instruments and the words to create a story with that. Even if you're not consciously listening to the music, your brain does process it, and it gives you a mental picture as you're driving along that still allows you to pay attention to the road, but still understand the story that's being told. Now we've gone over movies and music, and you might be wondering, well, what about books? Books are what most people consider literature. And then we get into the idea that books are just words. They don't have music. They don't have scenery to help me understand. What are they? How does narrative voice come through in a novel? Well, that is the great part, in my opinion, about books. They are just words. It's your ideas that come through every time you read them. You get to give emotion to the character. You don't have to wait for someone else to tell you what they should be feeling. I have an excerpt from Emergence by David R. Palmer. It's a book that I read when I was in middle school, and it is one of those books that stuck with me enough that I actually bought it as a grown-up. And if you listen to this excerpt, and then we'll talk a little bit about it.
David R. Palmer. Silly thing was 40 feet long, 12 feet tall, not counting air conditioner jetting from roof, barely 6 inches of ground clearance. Got down, looked.
This excerpt, it's written quite a bit different than most books. It doesn't have the or and. It's talking in the first person. This book is based on an 11 to 12-year-old girl's experiences after the end of the world. She had decided that all of the extraneous written word could be done away with. All we needed was what told the story. So, the writing style's a little bit different. It's kind of hard to get into sometimes because those placeholder words aren't there. But it tells a fascinating story. And one of the methods in that particular excerpt that tells you she's a little dismayed and shocked is that the words are italicized. So italics give you an idea. There are exclamation points throughout it. So that gives you the feel that it's a 40-foot long piece of equipment here. What the heck good is that? And as you read on, you realize this piece of equipment is the creme de la creme of all motorhomes. And it's quite fascinating. And if you read the story, you get to give that emotion to Candy. The next excerpt is from A Time of Darkness by Cheryl Jordan. This one is a little bit different. It's got all the words in it, correct sentence structure, but it does give you hints as to what's going on.
A Time of Darkness by Cheryl Jordan. Rocco glanced at the bed and Tisha tossing there, feverish and whimpering, and fought down his impatience.
In that clip, the word impatience gives you the idea as to the emotion the character's feeling. It comes towards the end of the novel, so by this point you should have an idea as to how this young teenage boy is going to react to what's happened. So the entire novel pulls together to give you that in-depth idea of what's going on in a character's mind or in the story itself. Narrative voice can give you so much detail if you pay attention to it. You've got the music and the scenery. You've got words that tell you what's going on. And you've got your own perceptions and your own ideas that will help you flesh out and build up exactly what needs to be taught to you and to other people with each one of these types of literature. Well, I hope that was helpful, and you have a great time reading and watching movies, creating your own movies. Be your own author, create your own voice.